Thousands of students from around the world are in Glasgow, Scotland, for what's considered the Great Last Hope, the United Nations climate conference known as COP26. Young people are calling on world leaders to accelerate efforts to stop global warming. CGTN's Jung Nini brings us this report.
What do we want? Climate justice!
Young climate activists are here in Glasgow from all over the world. The most recognizable face is probably Greta Thunberg, the Swedish activist who sparked international movement with her blunt approach lashed out at COP26.
We say no more blah, 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 no more exploitation of people and nature and the planet.
But she's not alone. Other young climate activists share their thoughts in Glasgow. Coming from the mountains of Trinidad and Tobago, CHANDELLE O'Neill experienced firsthand how extreme weather is changing her life.
2014, a bushfire in my area. Climbed up one mountain and then came down and burned the mountain behind my house and got close enough to burn parts of my roof. Luckily enough, my neighbors intervened and I came back home after university and graduated. I decided to get involved myself, so I started volunteering at the Funds of Anti-Forestation project, planting trees, maintaining fire trails.
Growing up close to nature has led her to feel its changes most acutely and the anxiety to take the future into her own hands.
We have to meet the world leaders who have all the power right now so they can understand we're not trying to take the power, we're just trying to share it equally and fairly because we are inheriting the problem that we didn't create.
Despite agreements on deforestation and methane at COP26, much needed money for poorer countries is still years overdue. YITONG, one of UK's COP26 ambassadors, says action is needed.
The youth constituency, we wrote clearly in our opening remarks that we want that $100 billion to be delivered, not in 2023, but now. That is our wish, of course, and also that we want at least 50%, like we always said, to be allocated to adaptation and also to really increase loss and damage.
Kenyan climate activist Elizabeth WATHUTI is among the campaigners to meet with UN Chief Antonio Guterres on Wednesday. She urged people to recognize what she called the injustices of the climate emergency and act now.
The problem is not about the commitments. The problem is that the gap between what needs to be done and what is being done right now keeps widening every day. And this is not a time to say that we will do this. It's a time to begin making short-term targets, begin doing things right now, because the climate crisis is already impacting so many people.
Jung Nini, CGTN, Glasgow.
Students are packing the streets of the Scottish city to put pressure on leaders. The youth are taking centre stage like never before at this summit. Joining us now is JAKAPITA KANDAGA, a climate justice activist from Namibia. JAKAPITA, thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you. I understand you travelled to Glasgow on board a Greenpeace ship. Tell us about that experience and why it's so important for young people like yourself to be at COP26.
All right, thank you so much for having me. We bought a Greenpeace ship, or we did a collaboration, Paris of Future, with Greenpeace because we felt like our voices are really important at COP, and we chose Greenpeace and the boat action because we feel like we have a lot of islands that are sinking, and it was just like kind of to signify that we arrived at COP, even though we are suffering and we were able to make it. I feel like it's important for young people to be at COP, especially because everything that these world leaders are busy discussing at COP will affect us and they are directly affecting our futures. Every decision that are made at COP do not really affect their futures because most of them won't even be here 50, 60 years to come, but we will be here. So we feel like we are here to represent and to just make sure that decisions that are made in the COP are there to protect us in our futures.
So what is your message to world leaders in Glasgow, and what do you hope to achieve?
My message to world leaders in Glasgow is to stop paying us. I want them to, these people, they come here, they have discussions, they make up policies, they agree on policies, but whenever they individually go back to their home countries, they do not follow their own policies. So my message to the world leaders is to start following their own policies. You implement a policy against carbon emission, at COP, but then you go back home and you support or you invest your country into oil drilling. So basically, I just want people to do what they preach, especially world leaders,